The following is intended for mature audiences. Hi, beautiful. Thanks for being here. And in typical Scream Society fashion, let's kick this episode off with one of your traumatic experiences. I just wanted to share an unsettling experience I had when I was invited out to a night in the park in my area where there was going to be live music and vendors. I had gone with 3 other girls, and for the most part, it was fun. During the event, they were getting approached by all sorts of men who were, let's just say, not their type and looked out there. Being the only guy among the group, I sort of felt protective. I was eventually approached by another guy who I had assumed was into me. However, 2 of the girls came to get me because the next thing we knew, one of our friends was missing. We called, we texted, but we didn't get an answer from our missing friend. One of the girls brought up that she said she wanted to talk to one of the guys who was standing in a vendor line. My other 2 friends were fine with it until they lost sight of her during the commotion. I remember looking back to find the guy I was talking to, only to see he was gone. We didn't want to overreact because we were all grown, and what if she just went off to the bathroom or to another vendor to grab some food? But we also didn't want to not take it seriously. It became serious when a group of girls noticed we were stressing out and ran up to us. "Are you guys looking for your friend?" they asked. They pointed to a back parking lot, saying they'd seen her walking over there with a group of guys. We told the girls to call the police and ran toward the area. We heard a bit of a struggle and heard our friend stressed out, saying she had dropped her phone, but she sounded off. We heard screaming, but we couldn't see her until we spotted her by a blue sports-looking car. There were 4 guys, including the one that had talked to me, trying to force her into the vehicle. We ran toward them, and they all jumped into the car and fled. Our friend was hysterical at this point, running to us, but she seemed off. I took a photo of the license plate, then the car stopped and backed up. We tried to run back into the event when I felt my body get pulled backward. 2 of the guys were beating the crap out of me. I swung a few times but mostly missed since I couldn't really see. They took my phone and my friend's purse, the one they had tried to kidnap. Then they sped off. My friend ended up being drugged, which is why she was acting so strange. But we all got out alive and are just grateful things played out the way they did, because it could have ended so much worse. Welcome to a world where darkness and mystery converge. Navigate the depths of horror and true crime and join a society beyond the ordinary, where buzzworthy topics, paranormal tales, and listener-submitted experiences blend into a realm of the unknown. You have crossed into a place where the unusual and the terrifying are just the beginning. My name is Ralph Anthony, and welcome to the Scream Society podcast. What is going on, Screamers? Welcome into another chaotic chapter of this variety podcast from hell. I'm back from the dead. It's me, your host, Ralph. I'm alive, and we've got a jam-packed hour, so unless you're out here pulling a JoJo Siwa and revoking your lesbianism, sperm racing, or wasting millions of dollars going on pointless 11-minute space tours, I hope you're managing to stay alive out there. I know I am, and I survived my first Coachella, everyone, and aside from forgetting a major outfit of mine, the black lungs and pounds of dust I've been sneezing up, if you couldn't hear it in my voice, it actually wasn't as bad as I thought. But will I ever do it again? I think that's the real question here. And I will say, depending on who's headlining, never say never. But speaking of headliners here, let's talk about Lady Gaga's alleged demonic Coachella performance. It's time for Sinister Subjects. We have fully returned, ladies and gentlemen. Because remember when Lady Gaga first came onto the scene in 2008? Well, it was actually during her Fame Monster Born This Way era, which I want to say was around 2010, 2012, where there were rumors and accusations that she was putting out demonic and blasphemous content. However, during this time, I do have to say that most of the pop girlies were doing it. You had Beyonce, Rihanna, Katy Perry, Christina Aguilera even. And this was also around the time when the Illuminati talk started to really spread in music and movies and all of that. There was even an article on the 2009 MTV Video Music Awards and how somehow it was this Illuminati initiation ceremony for Taylor Swift, because she begins the show wearing white and ends the show in red. And apparently the whole Kanye West humiliation was supposed to happen to her as part of the initiation and all of that. It's really crazy. Just look it up. 2009 MTV Video Music Awards Illuminati symbolism, and it will probably pop up. It is crazy. But back to Gaga. Now, like I said, back in the 2010s, Gaga seemed to always be the main target of these accusations. So it felt like she kind of chilled out a little bit over the years. You know, she toned it down, made a few films over the years, and gained some new pumpkin spice latte loving fans, right? Especially with her album Joanne. However, with her latest album, Mayhem, she made a much needed return to her roots, embracing dark pop imagery that was prominently showcased during her sets at both weekends of this year's Coachella, which I attended weekend 2. And in my opinion, it is one of her best performances to date. Take a listen to this one reaction that recently went viral.
All right. I have a quick hot take. Well, what I think is a hot take based on what I'm seeing on Instagram. The Lady Gaga Coachella performance. Hot take. I hated it. When did it become cool, and who made it cool to be so satanic on such a huge platform and stage? These celebrities are getting away with things that they would never get away with 10 years ago. And I'm not saying we need to go back, but someone needs to be held accountable. It is sickening to see these celebrities and musicians get on stage and, I mean, just like I said, not even hide it. It's so dark and so not okay. I mean, there are children watching this, and people are going to say, well, don't let your kids watch it. My kids certainly aren't going to watch it. Don't let your kids watch it. It's just like, when did it become cool to worship such an evil being?
Satanic Panic is back, baby. I'm just kidding. I respect her perspective, but why do people like this always come from the position that they're above anyone who does appreciate these performances? Your kids are seeing and hearing worse, more demonic shit on their tablets and from their friends at school. And I'm not sure how old this person is, but to be clear, these dark performances have been going around for decades. Hard rock bands faced it, Madonna faced it, Prince faced it, Janet Jackson, Michael Jackson. Do I need to say more? The rebellious artist is just more interesting. I'm just going to be 100% honest. And let me be very clear. There is nothing demonic going on here. What we're actually witnessing, in my opinion, is a massive, unapologetic love letter to avant-garde, beautiful Gothic and Renaissance style art. It's theatrical, it's surreal, it's symbolic, it's high fashion meets like opera house drama, and it's not giving Underworld. Well, maybe slightly, but the entire setup is it's so gorgeous. Like, I was actually in awe. I think I even blacked out because I don't really remember much from being there. It was just this feast of just visual like metaphor. It's camp, it's commentary, it's fantasy. And if you're familiar with her new album Mayhem, it all fits thematically. And some might argue her music is satanic, but to me, she sings about fighting inner demons, which is literally what most faiths preach, overcoming personal struggle, but it's demonic because the performance is dark. Imagine I'm sitting here defending defending this performance, and turns out all of these religious extremists were right. Imagine that. And I could only be taking this stance because I'm under some spell after attending the performance. Anywho, other religious and right-leaning political groups honed in on the satanic allegations, sharing Gaga regularly attends spirit cooking rituals. Now, spirit cooking is a term that originated from a performance art piece by Serbian artist Marina Abramovic in the 1990s. The artwork involved writing cryptic phrases with pig's blood on the walls of a gallery space. These phrases included ritualistic or surreal instructions like mix fresh breast milk with fresh sperm milk, drink on earthquake nights. And there is a photo of Lady Gaga with Marina at one of these rituals, and it looks a little crazy, I'm not gonna lie. They appear to be eating a dark red or maybe round chocolate-like liquid off of a model that's laying in a white tub-like box. Look, it basically looks like they're eating off of a corpse. However, Marina Abramovic has explained that spirit cooking is meant as symbolic performance art, drawing on themes of ritual, alchemy, and the body, not actual occult practice, Satanism, or witchcraft. I think we have a tendency to call things that look weird or too dark, or that we don't understand, evil. I think that's something that's been a part of the human race for hundreds of years. But honestly, maybe if we all took a hit, had a little more sex, and relaxed a little more, we would just allow people to enjoy what they want. Now, I'm not saying there isn't demonic shit going down in the industry, but how about we stop focusing so hard on pop stars' performances and more on those rape allegations? What about believing women? Believing men who are victims of these sexual predators in Hollywood? Focus more on the sex trafficking scandals, more on the P. Diddy's and the Russell Brands. Now that's demonic. We're going to move on to something a little more heavier and a little darker, so I do want to issue a trigger warning as this may be triggering for you. You know, one of the most anxiety-ridden feelings I have is coming across an active shooter. Mass shootings are unfortunately always at the back of my mind. I do bring that topic up quite often on this podcast, and whether it's at a festival with large crowds, a movie theater filled with people, hell, even sometimes at work, it's such a sad reality that I'm sure I don't just think about it, but so many others out there do as well. In fact, on the drive to Coachella is when I caught wind of the Florida State University shooting, which was on April 17th, where a 20-year-old student named Phoenix Eichner allegedly, and I have to say allegedly here, opened fire near the student union around lunchtime. He killed 2 staff members and injured 6 other people. It all started late that morning. He arrived at a parking garage on campus around 11 a.m. and then left just before noon. A few minutes later, he began shooting. He was walking around campus, inside buildings, and through outdoor areas, just firing at random. Some students even described seeing him calmly walking in a t-shirt and shorts, firing a handgun as if it were nothing. Now, the university sent out their first alert just after 12 p.m., warning everyone to shelter in place. Police responded quickly, though, within 2 minutes actually, and shot Eichner in the jaw about 4 minutes after he began shooting, when he refused to comply with their commands. Now, he survived, but was badly injured and hasn't spoken to investigators since. The whole thing was terrifying for everyone on campus, Some students were hiding in the bathrooms or the basement of the student union. One group didn't have a door that locked, so they held it shut while waiting for help. Another group hid behind trash cans and plywood in a corner. There was even a student there who had survived the Parkland shooting, which took place on February 14th of 2018. That took place at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, part of the Miami metro area, where a 19-year-old former student, Nicholas Cruz, opened fire on students and staff, tragically killing 17 people and injuring 18 more. The student told news outlets that they never thought that they would experience again. And you really don't think you're going to even experience one. Like, I can't even imagine going through one of these terrible situations twice. Another student said she saw the shooter pull up in an orange Hummer and just started firing. She described him switching weapons mid-attack and shooting a woman right in front of her. He reportedly looked at her, reloaded, and told her to keep running. Police eventually recovered 3 firearms, one on him, one in a car nearby, and one in the building. And one of them actually belonged to his stepmom, who is a sheriff's deputy, and he'd apparently practiced shooting with her before all of this. The 2 people who lost their lives, unfortunately, were 57-year-old Robert Morales, who was the university's dining director, and 45-year-old Tiru Chaba, a regional VP from Aramark, the school's food vendor. But thankfully, all of the injured victims are expected to survive, though it's going to be a long journey, and not just physically, but mentally. And then there was this video that went viral and made a lot of people really upset because a woman had been shot and was bleeding on the grass, and someone is shown to have walked right past her, not helping, and just kept sipping their Starbucks. And the internet understandably exploded over just how cold and cruel and detached that was, which unfortunately we see happen a lot. The bystander effect is a real fucked social phenomenon. Now, as for Eichner, the shooter, he was born Christian Erickson and changed his name to Phoenix Eichner in 2020. His childhood was full of legal battles between his parents. There were allegations of domestic abuse, stalking, and manipulation from both sides. At one point, his mother even took him to Norway without permission and was charged with kidnapping. He was just 10 years old at that time. His dad said he had special needs and had been on medication for things like ADHD and a growth hormone disorder. And to me, it sounds like he went through a lot of instability growing up. And in recent years, he started expressing really concerning views, white supremacist, far-right, and openly homophobic views. Not surprising, unfortunately. He was even kicked out of a political group in college for being too extreme. He admired Trump and Hitler, used Nazi imagery online, and joined hate groups. It's hard not to feel a mix of anger and heartbreak here. Like, I understand, yes, his childhood was clearly chaotic and traumatic. No kid should be dragged through custody wars, abuse allegations, or international abductions even. And unfortunately, that's just reality. And if he did have special needs that weren't properly supported, that's a failure of the system and his parents. They were supposed to be the ones to protect him. But I have to say that at some point, trauma stops being an excuse and starts being a warning sign. And what's truly disturbing is just how those early warning signs evolved into something violent and hateful, and how little intervention seems to have happened along the way. Now, extremism is extremism, whether it's on either side of the spectrum. And I think if we want to truly see change and to feel safe and actually be safe, I think we need to stop treating extremist views as edgy or harmless until someone opens fire. His beliefs were violent long before the shooting, and the fact that someone like this had access to guns, practiced shooting with a sheriff's deputy. And I think I stand with millions of you out there who are thinking, when are we going to get this shit under control? Let's move on. Question. Those of you out there listening, was the moon landing of 1969 real? Was that the moon or just a soundstage? That's a popular conspiracy that floats around every so often. And personally, I don't have any opinion on it really, but I do have an opinion on another more recent trip to space. Let's talk about the Blue Origin flight that happened on April 14th. So on this trip, we had Lauren Sanchez, who, if you don't know, is Jeff Bezos' wife. And yes, Jeff Bezos is the founder of Blue Origin and, you know, Amazon, the company that sends you that weird thing that you ordered at 2 a.m. Anyway, the flight also held Katy Perry. And listen, I got my issues with Katy Perry. Anyway, also floating up there were Gayle King, Amanda Wen, who's incredible, by the way, former NASA engineer Aisha Bowe, also incredible, and film producer Carrie Ann Flynn. All 6 of them shot about 65 miles above Earth, floated around for like 10 minutes. Katy Perry decided it was the perfect moment to sing What a Wonderful World, and then they came back down. And look, I'm not gonna lie, the night before I was kind of worried. Katie and Gayle were posting all these emotional borderline goodbye forever videos, and it was kind of dark and weird. I woke up ready to hear something went wrong, honestly, but thankfully it was already over before I even finished clearing the gunk out of my eyes. Like, okay, look, at first glance, it sounds really cool, right? Like all female crew, history being made, empowering moment, all the buzzwords, except no, people were pissed, and honestly, rightfully so. At first, I thought it was just trolls being trolls, but when you actually step back and look at it, it's not really about pushing women forward in space. It's a billionaire PR move dressed up like girl power. And here's the thing. Amanda Wen and Aisha Bowe are incredible, like true icons. But did the media focus on them? No. Instead, all anyone was talking about was Katy Perry's spacesuit and Gayle King laughing in zero gravity and how stunning Lauren Sanchez looked in her flight gear. Like, they completely flattened the story into celebrity shit. And meanwhile, the real issues, like the fact that women only make up 12% of people who've been in space, about 16% of engineers, and barely hold any real leadership roles in aerospace, didn't even get mentioned. And honestly, what's worse is that Blue Origin hyped this up like it was this massive feminist milestone. Imagine the money they spent on this PR moment that could have gone to scholarships or mentorship programs or building opportunities for women who actually want to work in aerospace. So while yeah, it's cute seeing women in space, for me, it's hard to celebrate when it's clear it was just more about an Instagram moment than an actual change. I'm just saying, if you're going to flex how woke you are, maybe don't make it feel like you pulled your crew off of a Met Gala after party list. Now, right after Katy Perry and the rest of the Blue Origin crew went up, a lot of people online started questioning if the whole thing was even real. Some were saying the launch looked fake, like bad CGI, and a bunch of videos just started circulating, pointing out weird shit. One thing people noticed was the capsule door. Now, normally space capsules have doors that open inward and need a crew on the outside to unlock them. Like when NASA astronauts come back, you always see a whole team working for minutes just to get them out. But with this flight, footage showed the door being opened from the inside before it got quickly shut again. And then a few minutes later, Jeff Bezos comes in with a special tool to make it look like he's unlocking it. And a lot of people online picked up on that and said that things just weren't adding up. Now, there was also a lot of focus on how Katy Perry's hair floated because in real microgravity, like on the ISS, hair sticks straight up and floats wildly. But in the clips from this flight, her hair barely moved, which led even more people to claim that it wasn't true zero gravity or that it was being staged somehow. And the little debunking in my brain kind of was thinking like, well, like maybe she was wearing a lot of hairspray. Because you can't rule out all of the facts and different approaches here, right? And you really have to do your research, because another thing people pointed out was what looked like a fake hand inside the capsule, but it was actually from a different Blue Origin flight, which was from 2017, when they had a mannequin on board named Mannequin Skywalker. That's great. Some people were sharing that old footage thinking it was from Katy Perry's launch, but it wasn't the same capsule. And then on top of all that, some conspiracy theories started popping up about the flight being part of a satanic ritual. We love talking about Satan, don't we? Mainly because of the mission patch design. Some thought if you flipped it upside down, the symbols looked like Baphomet, which is often associated with occult symbolism. People were even saying that the timing was suspicious since the flight happened close to Holy Week, a major time in the Christian calendar. Those theories suggested the launch could have been used as a kind of spiritual distraction, like pulling attention away from Easter and the story of Christ's resurrection, and even claimed it was a form of energy harvesting by focusing global attention on the event. And some parts are definitely worth questioning, like the weird door situation, while the other stuff, like the mannequin hand, is easily debunked. But the bigger takeaway is that people are really skeptical, not just of this launch, but of the whole billionaires in space thing in general. It feels very staged, very performative, and not really about science or progress the way they try to sell it. But what do you all think? Let me know on the podcast Instagram or screamsocietypodcast@gmail.com. We're going to close out Sinister Subjects on a lighter note here, because if I told you I would be covering a topic on semen, I would have called myself crazy. But here we are. So what's the deal with this sperm racing shit? It sounds crazy, I know, but apparently it's actually doing something positive-ish, and also gay baiting, according to some netizens. Take a listen to this promo for the event.
Everything big always starts small. This is the world's first ever sperm race. This is Asher from UCLA versus Tristan from USC. Two legends on microscopic racetrack. The battle for whose sperm is the healthiest, the fastest, and the tastiest. Whose swimmers will win the race? USC versus UCLA. Friday, April 25th. Live on spermracing.com.
You really can't make this shit up. So Eric Zhu, this tech genius, and a bunch of other crypto teenage overachievers threw this crazy event in downtown LA on April 25th, and it was literally a live sperm race. Yes, real sperm racing under a microscope, and this sounds like a homosexual event. And at first I thought two guys were going to jerk off in front of a live audience. Not the case. The whole idea was to raise awareness about male infertility, because apparently sperm health has been tanking over the last 50 years, but no one talks about it because it's awkward. And somehow they convinced Silicon Valley investors to give them $1.4 million to pull this off. Imagine pitching this idea, like walking in being like, hey, like we want to make sperm race, can you give us $1 million? And then investors were just like, okay, cool, say less. Like, how do you get $1.4 million to do something like this? Now, originally, they booked the Hollywood Palladium, which is a pretty iconic concert venue, but when the venue kind of freaked out when press started calling it a sperm Olympics, and then they canceled on them. So with 1 week to go, Eric and his team, including this guy Garrett, who used to work for Mr. Beast, scrambled and found a new spot at LA Center Studios. Tickets were pretty affordable. They were $20 for students, $40 for regular folks. And then there was a VIP ticket for $999.99. And I have to ask, but what exactly do you get at a VIP sperm race? Like, are you actually going to see them? Forget it. So the race was between two college students, as you heard in the promo, Tristan and Asher. They picked them because they had similar biomarkers, which basically just means their health stats matched up enough to make it a fair race. They built this tiny 8-inch, stay mature. They built this tiny 8-inch racetrack shaped like a female reproductive system and magnified everything 40 times so people could actually see their sperm moving. And because sperm are tiny and slow, they swim about 5 millimeters a minute. Each race took about 40 minutes. Eric explains faster sperm is healthier sperm, meaning if your sperm moves quickly, you're probably in good health overall. He also pointed out that sperm counts have dropped by half since the 70s, which, yikes. And here's where it starts sounding ridiculous because they had everything. Like, I mean everything that you'd expect from a real sports event. They had leaderboards, instant replays, live play-by-play commentary. Like, I actually would like to attend one of these events. It sounds pretty interesting. And, well, at the end of the race, they ended up crowning Tristan, whose last name is Milker. And if it's for the greater good and spreading awareness on men's reproductive health and how diet and air quality can affect that, then amazing. That's awesome. But whether they are gay baiting or not, look, the gays are horny. If we can pay for each other's OnlyFans, then I think some of us would be down to attend a sperm race. Welcome into Terrifying But True, the segment where I choose one random paranormal or one random true crime case. For this episode's case, we're digging into the incredibly tragic, violent, and complex story of NFL star Aaron Hernandez. Now, this isn't just about a football player who committed a murder. This is about a broken system, unchecked trauma, a toxic culture of silence, and what happens when you mix fame, fear, and deep psychological damage. When the unthinkable becomes reality, we find ourselves questioning everything, as some stories are too terrifying but true. Aaron Joseph Hernandez was born in Bristol, Connecticut on November 6th, 1989. From the outside, his life looked picture perfect. His dad, Dennis Hernandez, known as the King, around town, was a respected high school athlete and the glue of the family. He was a former UConn football player and ran a tight Puerto Rican household. But here's where things start to unravel, because while the public saw discipline and leadership, behind closed doors, there was abuse. According to Aaron's older brother, DJ Hernandez, their father was a controlling and physically violent man. In DJ's memoir, he said their dad would beat their mother and beat them with belts and his fists, and sometimes threw them into walls. Dennis wanted his sons to be tough men, and that meant no crying, no weakness, and absolutely no softness, ever. And when it came to gender roles and masculinity, Dennis was strict, like terrifyingly strict. Any behavior that wasn't masculine enough was mocked or punished. Now, this would haunt Aaron for the remainder of his life. Aaron started playing football at a very young age, likely around age 8 or 9, in youth leagues around Bristol, Connecticut, but he really began to stand out as a player during middle school, and by the time he was at Bristol Central High School, he was already being recognized as a star athlete. By his junior year in high school, he was dominating on the field. playing both tight end and defensive end, and caught the attention of major college scouts. Then in 2006, when Aaron was just 16, his father died unexpectedly during a routine hernia surgery, and that changed everything. Friends and family said Aaron snapped. He stopped going to church, started hanging with a new crowd, and completely shut down emotionally. His identity, his sense of control, it all unraveled. Aaron's mother, Terry Hernandez, within months of her husband's death, started dating Aaron's cousin's husband. And yes, you heard that correctly. She began a relationship with Jeffrey Cummings, who was married to Tanya Singleton, Aaron's older cousin, and someone he was very close to. That betrayal hit deep. Aaron felt like she'd moved on way too quickly, and to someone from inside the family, girl, really? Now, after his father passed away in 2006, Aaron accelerated his graduation and received a scholarship to attend the University of Florida early, starting college football at just 17 years old. He helped win a national championship, broke tight end records, and looked like a future NFL star. But off the field, so many red flags. He was constantly involved in fights. In 2007, he punched a bar employee so hard he ruptured the guy's eardrum. He was even questioned by authorities in connection to a shooting where 2 men were injured in a drive-by. But did he get charged? No, because when you're talented and valuable to the program, people look the other way. And that's honestly a very common problem when it comes to sports, right? Let's see how much we can sweep under the rug in order to keep winning. And I'm sure some of these players develop a mentality where they feel they can basically do anything, even get away with murder perhaps. So yes, in Aaron's case, there was drugs, aggression, and dangerous friends. But instead of facing consequences, Aaron was protected by a sports culture that prioritizes wins over wellness. And the NFL, they saw all the red flags and decided to draft him anyway. Aaron was drafted by the New England Patriots in 2010. He was just 20 years old and quickly became a fan favorite. By 2012, he'd signed a 5-year, $40 million contract. He had money, fame, a mansion, a fiance, Cheyenne Jenkins, his longtime girlfriend from high school, and a new baby. But behind his smile and all of those touchdowns, Aaron was spiraling. He was paranoid, always carrying a gun, obsessed with security cameras, and surrounded by the wrong people he refused to cut ties with. As for everyone else, he didn't trust anyone, and he definitely didn't trust the world knowing his secrets. Now, on June 17th, 2013, a jogger found the body of Odin Lloyd in an industrial park about a mile from Aaron's home. Odin was a semi-pro football player and the boyfriend of Aaron's fiance's sister. He had been shot 6 times, once through the back, twice through the chest, once through the forearm, and twice in the back of the head, execution style. Within days, investigators zeroed in on Aaron. Security footage from his mansion showed him pacing nervously before the murder and holding what looked like a gun when he got home. Cell tower data showed he was near the crime scene. He destroyed his phone, smashed his security system, and hired a cleaning crew the day after the murder. Subtle, right? Then on June 26th, Aaron was arrested and charged with Odin Lloyd's murder, and the Patriots cut him within 90 minutes. In 2015, the trial began. The prosecution didn't have the murder weapon, but they had everything else: DNA on shell casings, phone records, footage of him walking around with a Glock, and the fact that he tried to cover everything up. But here's where it gets interesting. The motive wasn't exactly clear. Prosecutors suggested Aaron killed Odin because he feared Odin was going to expose him, possibly his secret sexuality. Others said it was about a disrespectful comment Odin made. Either way, it was personal. Aaron's lawyers tried to paint him as a bystander, that he didn't pull the trigger, but it didn't matter. The jury found him guilty of first-degree murder, and he was sentenced to life without parole. In 2012, before Odin Lloyd's murder, Daniel D'Abreu and Safiro Furtado were gunned down in their car after leaving a Boston nightclub. Their crime? One of them allegedly spilled a drink on Aaron. For years, it was a cold case until after Aaron's arrest, when a witness, a former friend named Alexander Bradley, came forward and said that Aaron had shot them. Bradley said Aaron fired 5 shots from his SUV because he felt disrespected. Now, Aaron was charged with 2 counts of murder in 2017, but here's the twist on that. He was acquitted. Jose Baez, yes, Casey Anthony's lawyer, Casey Anthony, that demon. As I was saying, Jose Baez, Aaron's lawyer, convinced the jury that Alexander Bradley was the real killer. 5 days after his acquittal in the double homicide case, on April 19, 2017, Aaron was found dead in his cell. He had hanged himself with a bedsheet, blocked the door with cardboard, and used shampoo to make the floor slippery so he couldn't change his mind. He wrote John 3:16 on his forehead in red ink, which says, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life." Aaron also left 3 handwritten notes in his prison cell, written on ruled paper and placed beside a Bible. One was addressed to his fiancée, Shiana Jenkins, and to his daughter, Aviel, and one to his attorney, Jose Baez. And while the full word-for-word contents have never been released publicly due to privacy and legal reasons, excerpts and summaries were shared during investigations and court proceedings. The first one to Shiana Jenkins, his fiancée, he expressed eternal love for her and told her she would be rich after his death, an apparent reference to the legal loophole he hoped would void his conviction and secure NFL money for her and Aviel. The second letter to Aviel, his daughter, this one was heartbreaking. He called her his greatest gift and told her never to fear death because he would always be watching over her. That one was said to have been written in a soft, almost childlike tone. Now, the third letter to Jose Baez, his attorney, this note was more philosophical and cryptic. He thanked Baez for helping him win the double homicide case and implied that he was not guilty of Odin Lloyd's murder either. He also told him to keep fighting the system. Baez later said the tone was not suicidal and it actually seemed hopeful, which made the suicide even more shocking to him. Now, there were also other strange findings at the crime scene. Aaron had allegedly cut his finger and written in blood on the walls of his cell several strange images, including a pyramid with an eye and the word Illuminati underneath. His death rocked the world, but it also reopened old wounds because theories swirled. Did he kill himself to protect his family's finances? Was it about his sexuality? Was it guilt? Now, after Aaron's death, sources inside the prison claimed there was a fourth note separate from the ones to Shiana, Aviel, and Jose Baez. The fourth one was addressed to Kyle Kennedy, who was a fellow inmate and was allegedly the last person to see Aaron alive. Kyle Kennedy was serving time for armed robbery, and according to his attorney, Kyle and Aaron were very close. So close that Aaron allegedly gifted him a $50,000 custom watch and promised to buy him a motorcycle when they were both released. Kyle claimed the two had a very intimate relationship, and rumors quickly spread that they were romantically involved. But here's where it gets murky. Kyle Kennedy's lawyer publicly stated that there was a fourth letter and that it was written to his client. However, Massachusetts prison officials denied the existence of a fourth letter. They only acknowledged the 3 notes found next to the Bible. So then, what happened? Well, some believe the prison was trying to cover it up due to the implications it would have about Aaron's sexuality and potential negligence by staff. Others think the Kennedy camp may have exaggerated the relationship for media attention or legal leverage. Aaron's fiancée, Shiana Jenkins, flat out denied it. In interviews, she said she never believed he was gay or bisexual and felt the rumors were disrespectful, which is, in my opinion, some of the tackiest shit the media and people do online. Speculate someone's sexuality after they are no longer living. Now, Jose Baez, Aaron's attorney, was more cryptic on this matter because he initially denied any romantic relationship between Aaron and Kyle, but later admitted that Aaron may have had sexual relationships with men, particularly in high school, and that he struggled deeply with the shame and the secrecy. Now, I think the most interesting piece of this case is when Aaron's brain was donated to Boston University's CTE Center because the results were absolutely horrifying. The results showed that he had stage 3 chronic traumatic encephalopathy, or CTE. His brain showed the kind of damage you'd expect in an 80-year-old. His frontal lobe, the part that controls judgment, decision-making, and impulse control, was completely shredded. This raised serious questions about accountability. How much of Aaron's behavior was driven by trauma, by brain disease, by a lifetime of hiding his truth in a culture that demanded silence? And most of all, how many other athletes are walking around with brains that look just like his? Closing this out, Aaron Hernandez didn't become a killer overnight, and I'm not excusing the family's lives he's ruined, but I do believe he was a product of trauma, a product of abuse, a product of toxic masculinity, and hands down, a product of a system that valued his talent over his well-being. He was enabled, he was protected, and he was ignored until people started dying. Was he a monster? Was he a victim? Was he both? Well, that's for you to decide. And now, let's dive into Ralph versus the Rot, where I take on your questions and do my best to give you a fair perspective and advice, because society is decaying, and I'm here to call it out. As always, if you would like me to share an experience of yours, share something you find creepy or interesting, or simply want to ask me a question, send an email to screamsocietypodcast@gmail.com or head on over to beacons.ai/the Scream Society and click on the Society submissions link. Everything remains anonymous. At the beginning of the episode, I shared something that was sent to me last year, and I figured we're talking about Coachella this episode. Why not dig into the archives a little bit from the original podcast? Because I had seen a post on Twitter about something similar happening at this year's Coachella, and it reminded me of this situation that I shared at the beginning of the episode. Also, side note, would you all want me to reshare some of those experiences from the old podcast, Scream Queer Podcast, and give actual reactions to them? Because I would only share like low tone with like spooky music behind it and not really dive into them or react to them after. Let me know. But I also think it would be cool to share those stories again to a newer audience. But yeah. But to summarize the opening experience I shared, this group of friends was out enjoying a night at a local park event, live music vendors, you know, the usual good time. Then one of them went missing. She'd wandered off to talk to some guys, and what happened next turned into this terrifying near kidnapping situation. And it all happened fast, but thanks to some quick action, they were able to stop it before things got even worse. Although the only guy friend out of the other 3 girlfriends, including the one that was almost trafficked, was jumped for taking a photo of the getaway car's license plate. And not to shame anyone here, but letting someone go off alone, especially in a setting where there's already sketchy energy, it's not ideal. Like, I get it. You're at a public event. Everyone's hype. Everyone's excited. It might feel safe it's just a guy standing by a vendor. He's cute. He's hot. Let's go talk to him. But you really have to be careful. Also, can we talk about the guy who was talking to our guy and then just disappeared the second things got weird? The gay baiting of it all. And I get why they didn't freak out right away. Like, your mind doesn't want to believe something shady is happening. You're in misbelief. You're thinking maybe she went to the bathroom. Maybe she's grabbing a taco. Who knows? But the minute your gut says something is off, you 100% should not ignore it. But yeah, key takeaways of this experience: stick with your people. Don't be afraid to be that person who double checks everything. And if your gut says something is not right, it probably isn't. Now, let's get into some of these questions. And I'm going to have to put my advice columnist pants on this episode, apparently. Craziest things you witnessed at Coachella. I didn't really see anyone having sex or anything like that, but I did sit behind two girls who put on deodorant, then snorted coke out of one of the other girl's long acrylic nail. And then they chugged their beatboxes. Also, during Lady Gaga, the gays who were being friendly started snorting poppers, but nothing too crazy. When I got this one, I don't know if I'm being trolled or if it's a genuine question, because I have never received a question like this. This question asks, have you come across men who smell like mold and mildew? I don't know what is going on at the moment, but it seems every time I go out to the club, I get a whiff of some feminine cologne mixed with guys who smell like they've been sitting in a steam room for hours. And I think the sad part about this is I know exactly what this smell is. And there was someone who I knew where wherever they went, their odor would fill up the room, and it smelled like mold, and it would just stay in whatever room they were in. It was bizarre. I'm really not trying to bully anyone because we don't know what people are going through or like what health issues people are facing. But yeah, I'm not going to be judgy, so I have nothing more to say on this one. I just wanted a good laugh. I've been having a hard time. How do you stay confident when it feels like gay dating culture is so obsessed with hooking up, open relationships, looks, and now filming content for their OnlyFans? You just have to figure out how to sort through these bitches. And I've said this before, step outside of the dating apps and really put yourself out there, get out there. I do have hope that there are other places to meet someone that is for you. And as far as open relationships, you just got to be straight up from the beginning and stand your ground. Hold on to your beliefs, stay true to you. And I'm not saying that because I'm judging people who are into open relationships and getting content for their OnlyFans. In fact, I've been open to open relationships. No, I'm lying. I'm jealous as fuck. Looks, that's always going to be something to an extent. But again, you just really have to find that person who is willing to grow with you and deal with all of the flaws and setbacks and roadblocks and all of that. And as for filming content for OnlyFans, like, I think that's where you need to make that judgment and see if this person is for you, no matter how much you do like them. Because if you end up going through a relationship with someone who does OnlyFans, I think you're only going to be hurting yourself, especially if you're not okay with it, as they are going to be collabing with other creators or maybe want to include you in it. And if you're not comfortable with that, I don't think that's going to be very successful. I am insecure to an extent. However, I do have really strong boundaries and I do respect that about myself. So I think you just really need to stay true to your boundaries, set boundaries and stick to them. Do not compromise. I mean, we're really all just out here doing our best. So I wish you luck. Where are the 911 calls? Okay, so with the 911 calls, I was doing them a lot at the beginning of this season. I had one almost every episode. And then there came a time where I wasn't finding what I was wanting for this podcast. Yeah, so 911 calls they're on pause for now. They're not gone forever. But as of right now, I really haven't found any good ones. Does part of you secretly think it would be fun to be in an until dawn situation? Try your best to survive the situation, knowing that things will reset if you don't succeed. Or is that just me? I'm going to be honest with you. I haven't watched Until Dawn yet. I've played the video game. However, I believe the video game and the film are completely different as they have different plots. The game doesn't have like all the reset, like you die a different way. So I really don't know, but I do think it would be fun if we didn't really die. I think maybe if it's in the form of like an escape room or something like that, that'd be really fun. I think I would be really good. I did an escape room one time and it was really fun, and I was on the winning team because I love critical thinking and like all of that stuff. Put me in an escape room and I will solve my ass off. But if you hand me an entertainment center in the box and I need instructions to put it together, I will self-destruct. It's so weird. But yeah, to answer your question, I think that would be quite fun, and just to kind of see the different scenarios and different ways there are to die. Not really, but in this escape room. But yeah. I can't put this entire question in the prompt box, but if you had to be stuck in one franchise, which would you prefer? The Exorcist, The Conjuring, or Evil Dead? Definitely Evil Dead, because that is probably my favorite franchise from the three. I just think it would be really kick-ass and fun to be a deadite, right? Like just walking around possessed and just being crude and making obnoxious jokes and sticking your tongue out and just being really nasty. That'd be really fun. That's demonic, bitch. Thank you for tuning into the Scream Society podcast, hosted, written, produced, and edited by yours truly, Ralph Anthony. Help the society grow by subscribing on your favorite platform and leave a rating and review. I always strive for 5s. Have a horror or paranormal experience? Want me to answer your questions on the show? Submit to beacons.ai/The Scream Society. Connect with the podcast on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Scream Society Podcast. And until next time, I'll scare you on the next episode.